everyone and welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing the S.H.Figuarts Son Goku, and there isn't much of an indicator of which version of Son Goku this is, but this is roughly the 1.0 mold, and it is normal state Goku, so around sort of Saiyan Saga-ish, although he doesn't have any markings on his gi, so it could be anywhere between Buu Saga or anything like that. Basically, it's a standard normal state Goku. And this is the 1.0 mold. This is not the first Figuarts Goku that they've released. That was actually the S.H.Figuarts Super Saiyan Goku, but this is the first sort of major normal state Goku. I don't remember how this one was released initially. It may have been a web exclusive or something like that. But regardless, it is the sort of standard that we got for S.H.Figuarts during the 1.0 phase. And S.H.Figuarts is about 15 years old. I don't know exactly when this one came out. Hopefully I've got it on screen at the moment. But basically this is the old mold, and I will be comparing it to the new mold, or at least the 2.0 mold, so you can see where we had come from and sort of what we're up to now. So anyway, we'll quickly go over the box. So you can see here is the standard S.H.Figuarts box at the time, which was a window in the middle and a name and some splash art on the side. You can see they still continued that same tradition of having the art carry over onto the side as well. On the back here, the promo images are done in a sort of comic book style. I guess it's also manga style as well. But you can see different promo shots as well as little descriptions of the S.H.Figuarts brand and what this figure can do. And then on the other side we've got another promo image, and that's pretty much it. So let's crack it open and have a better look. So you can see, opening it that way, it reveals more of the side art and it looks quite nice. So out of the box you can see all the accessories that Goku comes with. So he's got 5 faces, including the one that he comes packaged with. He's got a Kamehameha ball effect, as well as beam effects that come off of it, so it looks like a charging effect. Right now it almost looks like a Chupa Chup or candy or something like that. And we've got a bunch of different hands. So we've got 2 fists, 2 sort of chopping or waving hands, we've got 2 action pose hands, we've got 2 blast hands, and we've got sort of 2 Kamehameha hands, as well as an instant transmission hand. So we'll crack it open fully and have a look at the figure proper. So here we have the S.H.Figuarts Son Goku just taken out of the box, and you can see that the basic silhouette is actually quite good, even though this is quite an old figure. While I don't know the exact date on it, I think it's safe to assume this is at least 10 years old, and it still looks pretty damn good. But there are a lot of improvements that were made with the 2.0 molds, and a lot of that is more aesthetic based than it is a sort of posability based. So we will be going through everything, but first we'll go through paint and sculpt in the same phase, just because a lot of the S.H.Figuarts sort of have a lot of pieces molded in the color that they're meant to be, so you can't really evaluate paint that much. So it's better to do it in that same sort of breath. So taking a closer look at the figure, you can see there's a beautiful head sculpt. The hair looks quite good. It does look a little bit thin and a little bit awkward from different angles, but generally it does read as Goku. It does have that striking silhouette of his, and his face looks quite good. The sculpt is clean and the details are nice. You can see all the muscle detail on his neck and upper chest. There's his classic deep V and the undershirt beneath it. All of the chest is just one piece here, which we'll see if that limits maneuverability later. See the arms, nice and decently muscly, not super bulky, but it is sort of like the standard of Dragon Ball. Not a huge fan of how this muscle part here overhangs. It sort of looks awkward depending on the angle you're looking at it from, so I think front on it looks super weird. It's almost like another shirt piece, which is weird. You've got these floating parts which are nicely sculpted and help break up the arm and hide any of the weird joints. He's got his sash, it's just a floating piece here. I believe that's painted and looks pretty good. There's his pants looking fairly nice. The crotch seems fairly limited and creates a bit of a long, slightly odd hourglass shape with Goku, but we'll keep moving on. The major part that is a bit weird with the 1.0 figures is the way the pants are sculpted, because it sort of goes out, puffs out, then thins out into the boots, and I think that looks a bit funky. I much prefer the 2.0 mold and the proper, more screen accurate sort of look of Goku's pants, or anyone's pants really, because this was the standard for 1.0 figures for quite some time. The boots are nicely detailed and painted as well. The nice red stripe down the middle, as well as this little rope tying it all together. The underside of the feet are painted as well. Looks nice. There is a little bit of shading throughout the pants, I believe, and I think that the arms are either fully painted or shaded. At least that part is painted here, but I think there's some muscle shading as well, which is nice, and the upper chest is painted too. So that looks pretty good. There's nothing too crazy on the back, just more of that same detail, although you do definitely see how obvious these joint cuts were and where the joints are on the figure. So the back does not look very good at all. It also seems like there's a color difference between the torso and waist of my Goku and the rest of the figure. I don't know if that shows on camera so well. But generally the paint is pretty good and the sculpt is pretty good. You can see these parts are painted here. I believe elements of the chest besides the skin tone are painted. The face is painted quite well as well. And I like that they put in the line details. It really brings out a lot more of the details in the figure. So yeah, it's pretty decent, I would say, especially for like a 10-year-old figure. I think it holds up quite well. It's just general things with the shape of the sculpt that I would say gets in the way just a little bit. But next we'll go through sort of the posability of the figure, and then we'll do comparison to what the 2.0 mold looks like. So first things first, there's a ball joint at the head. It's pretty unlimited, which is good. I think it's just restricted by the shape of the head itself. The neck can bend inwards, so he can look down that far and look up that far, which isn't so impressive up, but was a pretty good down. The torso is on a ball joint, so you get a pretty unlimited swivel out of that, and he can bend down even further, which is very cool. On his arms, it's on a ball joint and a little bit of a butterfly, so his arms can swing out that far. This floating piece is on a ball joint, so you can sort of move it around to make sure the sculpt doesn't break or just looks nice. There's a swivel at the upper arm where that weird lip is, and that's mostly unlimited. It's just a little bit restrictive in certain areas, but you can still get a lot out of it. There's a double bend at the arm. There's a ball hinge at the wrist, so you can get some pretty good movement out of that. Next up, like I said, there's the ball joint at the waist, so you can move the legs as well as the torso depending on how you're posing your Goku. Oh, you can also move back that far, which is pretty good. In tune with the head as well, he can look up quite far. Next to his legs, he can kick up that far and back that far, so really good splits, or at least really good splits like that. Splits like this are a bit limited due to the shape of the waist, and he's got a double knee bend. But because of the structure of the legs, you can't get a full bend, and it is a little bit limited for like the double part of it, because there are two hinges in it, but they don't fully work in tandem with each other. But one cool thing is when you bend the knee, it really fixes that sculpt, and you can tell that the S.H.Figuarts were designed to be figures in motion. Next up, there is a ball joint at the foot and a bend at the toes, so you can get a decent-ish pivot out of it, and so you can get some pretty good action poses in general out of this Goku. So the 1.0 mold, while being decently old, I'd say in terms of posability and structure of the figure, actually holds up really, really well. I think that the main thing that the 2.0 figures did was make that aesthetic just work better. So while we're talking about the 2.0, we might as well bring in the 2.0 Saiyan Raised on Earth Goku. So here's Saiyan Raised on Earth Goku, who is a more show-accurate Goku from the Saiyan Saga and Frieza Saga. And you can see already that there's color differences, which doesn't matter too much because they do different colored Gokus all the time, and this might have been a very specific one that was from the time because they might have done an event exclusive recolor or something like that. So the coloring isn't the major part that we're looking at right now, it's more the actual mold. And you can see that generally aesthetically the Saiyan Raised on Earth Goku is probably a lot more show accurate. So just taking a closer look at him, you can see his neck looks a bit thicker, his shoulders look tighter, his hair is thicker, and I'd say it reads better as Goku, even though the 1.0 wasn't bad. I think that the 2.0 just really brings it home. I think that the faces are fine, but there is some charm to the 1.0. And the way they've done the chest is different. It's not as deep a V-cut. That is dependent on the figure, because Saiyan Raised on Earth was like an earlier Goku, so the V-cut's higher. He's also got, I don't know which logo it is, but he's got one of the logos on his chest and back. It might be the King Kai one, I'm not too sure. It might be just Son Goku. He's got this little ribbon, which is movable, which is kind of cool. And he's got more obvious joint cuts in the chest, which allows for, I think, better movement without breaking the sculpt so much, as well as more natural posing. And you can also see in the waist, there's these floating pieces as well as a deeper cut, so you can get more posability out of that. But the major part about the 2.0 is how the legs were designed. And so it's just this sort of cone type shape where it starts out thin and gets wider and then taps into the boots, and it just allows for a much cleaner looking sculpt. And while the joints are still very noticeable on the back, I think it achieves it just a little bit better, and the knee bend is about the same, but there is an actual knee on it, so even though it doesn't look the best, it does try and keep the aesthetic going on the front, which is pretty cool. It's not the best, but I think that what they did with 2.0 was generally a better improvement. But all things considered, posability on the 2.0 in comparison to the 1.0 is very similar. So again, ball joint at the head, they can bend in their neck, but not by much. So that's him looking down, which is a bit sad. Him looking up, which isn't that great. And all of that is in service of, I think, the reworked ball joint in the chest, which if you pull it out a little bit, you can get a proper ab crunch, even though it doesn't look like it. You just got to work at it a little bit, but it arcs back a decent amount, and then you can just collapse it. There we go, got the ab crunch working, and then you just collapse it. The arms work exactly the same. It's a butterfly and ball joint, but I feel like you can get a little bit more out of it. Again, a double jointed arm and a ball hinge at the wrist. The waist can swivel just a little bit, both the top and bottom, because they're all separate pieces now, and like I showed, the ribbon can move around. The legs can kick out about that far, which isn't too dissimilar to the 1.0, but I think it's more an aesthetic thing, as well as kick out like that. Showed the double bend at the knee already, There's a ball joint at the foot and then a hinge at the toes, or bend at the toes. So yeah, the posability between 1.0 and 2.0 is pretty much exactly the same, I'd say. Even the bits that are different, they are in service of pretty much the exact same thing. It really just comes down to aesthetic preferences, as well as accessories and ease of access, really, because some S.H.Figuarts are just hard to find, and the 2.0 say in Raised on Earth, they just re-release it endlessly. So again, the major thing that separates them is accessories. So we'll go through 1.0's accessories. So he's got a bunch of different hands that can achieve different things, and I'll be showing them in B-roll for this video, so you can see what we can get out of this figure. But the major part is linking the different faces with those accessories. So we've got the standard serious Goku face, which looks quite good. We've got the shouting to the side Goku face, which looks good as well, but this is the only sort of shouting face that we've got on the 1.0, and it doesn't really work with much of his effect pieces because he's got like most of his accessories, because he's got the Kamehameha, but he usually shoots that head on, so it just looks a bit awkward when he's shouting to the side. This is something that they fixed with the 2.0, even though he doesn't come with a Kamehameha effect piece. Next we've got a Goofy Goku face, and I think this one is fantastic. This is sort of how I view Goku, or at least early Goku, and I like it quite a bit. Whenever he's in the normal state, it just works so much better. It's just full of life, full of character. It just reminds me more of the older Dragon Ball. Then there's standard Happy Goku. This is also how I view the base form Goku, where he's just happy, nice, just a good guy, nothing too crazy. It's the same face that he sort of has when he introduces Gohan. And it's a similar face that they have for like the 2.0 that they wanted to achieve, and it's just nice seeing that. And then his last face is just Goku with a cheeky grin and happy eyes, and it just suits him again as well. It's like he's playing around with everyone or just having a great time. His forehead does look pretty high on some of these faces, but generally I think it looks fine. It's a nice aesthetic, and all of the faces are painted very nicely and look great, even though it is quite an old figure. So yeah, that's pretty much it. There's not much else to talk about in the older S.H.Figuarts. It's more just that they used to come with more accessories. Even if it wasn't effect parts, they used to come with a lot of faces and hands. But a lot of the older ones are harder to come by now and more expensive. But I feel like generally we did improve with the 2.0 molds, even if some of the quality may have dipped or we didn't use as much paint on future releases or less accessories. There are still a lot of exceptions to that rule. Case in point, the S.H.Figuarts Turles, who literally comes with all the accessories he needs. Maybe just one more face would have been nice for that one, but we already get an effect piece, the cloak, we get the Tree of Might's fruit, a very, very posable figure with a unique sculpt, a bunch of different hands, as well as options for his accessories, which is really cool. But yeah, that's pretty much it. This is what we used to have, and it's still a pretty good figure. It's nice to see that as an actual playable and posable figurine, it is still really good. It's not just that it's been fully dated. By now you can still pick up an old one if you don't mind the aesthetic differences, and it's still just a solid figure. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed that video, and I will see you all next time.